Father, watch over me. One day I swear.
It's been a long time, but the Choose Your Legend special event Ike is here. He is also called Brave Ike, and will be here to stay in the summoning pool. Brave Ike is an infantry axe unit that wields some impressive defensive capabilities. Brave Ike has some solid stats with 43 HP, 36 attack, 28 speed, 35 defense, and 20 resistance. He is well equipped for melee combat, and his special skills synergize with his frontline oriented stats. Irvan is the axe Ike has inherited from his father Grail. It grants special cooldown -1 and also reduces 80% damage from incoming consecutive attacks. I will talk about how this damage reduction works in just a bit. Ike has his signature move Aether again, but this time has a neat trick up his sleeve to activate it even easier than before. Steady Breath is a new A skill that Brave Ike comes with and is a very good defensive skill. When attacked, it grants +4 defense and also gives Ike +1 special cooldown charge on all actions. I will also explain how this works a little later. Brave Ike's exclusive non-inheritable skill is Bjork's Blessing. It's a B skill that nullifies stat bonuses when Brave Ike is fighting against flying and cavalry units. While not as crippling as the Panic status, it does mean Brave Ike can even the playing field against super buffed up Flyer and Horse Emblem teams. Irvan's damage reduction is quite impressive, so let's go over just how it works. The keyword in its description is consecutively, and this simply means any time damage is dealt without Brave Ike counterattacking. For example, Nino, who is a speedy ranged mage, will hypothetically attack Brave Ike for 22 damage 2 times. Nino's first hit will deal the normal 22 damage. However, Brave Ike cannot counterattack since Nino is a ranged unit, so she will attack again because she outspeeds him. On the second hit, since Brave Ike did not interrupt Nino, Irvan's damage reduction will activate. This 80% damage reduction will also take into account specials and their added damage. The same situation applies to Brave weapons since they attack twice uninterrupted when they initiate. So in a scenario where Brave Ike can counterattack, Irvan's damage reduction will not proc. In this example, let's say Ryoma doubles Ike again for 22 damage 2 times. Ryoma's first hit does 22 damage. Brave Ike counters for let's say 5 damage, and Ryoma will attack again, but this time Irvan will not reduce the damage since it was not consecutive. So while Irvan's damage reduction effect is quite impressive, it still has clear weaknesses that can be exploited. Its main purpose is to let Brave Ike tank hits against Brave weapons better, as well as survive a few more ranged encounters that he has no business living through. Steady Breath is a really good skill, and is also worded a little weirdly. It can only be active when Brave Ike gets attacked first, and will apply 2 effects. One is that Brave Ike gains +4 defense during combat, nice and simple. 2 is that all of Brave Ike's actions will gain an additional special cooldown charge. Normally, all actions in battle have a special cooldown charge of 1, and Steady Breath will increase this to 2. Using the same Ryoma scenario, if Ryoma initiates combat, his first hit will give Brave Ike +2 special cooldown charge. When Brave Ike hits back, this attack will also grant another +2 special cooldown charge. In this exchange, a special with a cooldown of 4 at the start of the fight will be fully charged thanks to Steady Breath. Brave Ike comes ready to deal with Brave weapons as well as neutralize cavalry and flyer buffs. His high defense and Steady Breath make him a nice physical wall that can activate Aether very easily. Like normal Ike, Aether can be used to sustain himself over multiple rounds of combat, but due to his low speed has a tough time getting a lot of one-round knockouts. Brave Ike is a very reliable green tank in melee matchups, however struggles very hard against ranged mages and fast red heroes in general. While Irvan grants a lot of tanking potential, it does not turn Brave Ike into a complete wall against either physical or magical damage. Steady Breath is amazing and has introduced a special Ignis nuke build that Brave Ike and others can run for some ridiculous one-round wins. I think Brave Ike can gain benefits from any boon, with plus HP being the weakest. I also think he doesn't necessarily have any terrible banes you need to watch out for. Some like minus res do not change much, since Brave Ike already struggles with magic in general, although 3 points in resistance can make or break niche situations, with the same being true for defense and HP. Overall, I would say Brave Ike is just very good to have, with the main focus on Irvan and Steady Breath, not necessarily any groundbreaking stats. Brave Ike has a few different skill inheritance options, and I have tried a decent combination of them. There is no reason to swap out Irvan, and I recommend you keep using it. For assist skills, I like to use swap on my tanky frontliners to help save allies and get into position for baiting. Reposition or a rally buff is also just as viable and is up to your team composition. Brave Ike can run a few specials depending on how you want to play him. Aether works for long-term tanking, Bonfire is really good for consistent damage, and Ignis can set up a nasty one-hit nuke thanks to Steady Breath. The Ignis nuke build uses Irvan's special cooldown reduction, as well as Quicken Pulse's cooldown reduction, to give Ignis a 2-turn charge time. With Steady Breath's extra cooldown charge when getting attacked, Brave Ike can retaliate with a fully charged Ignis after one hit, and very few melee attackers will be able to survive this. While Steady Breath is an amazing A skill, there are a few options for Brave Ike. Distant Counter turns him into an Infantry Hector who can now deal insanely well with Brave Bow Archers and Reinhardt since he can kill them on the counter attack. Distant Defense could also increase Brave Ike's range tanking, but I don't think it tops the power Steady Breath brings. I think Brave Ike has many viable B skills. Bjork's Blessing is very niche but very strong if the enemy abuses Horse or Flyer buffs. Renewal 3 improves Brave Ike's health regeneration if you use a special other than Aether. Quick Riposte gets Brave Ike more melee KOs since he is very slow, and without it Brave Ike struggles to get 1-round wins when you use him for baiting. Vantage 3 is overall very useful since you can send Brave Ike into a group of enemies and let him tank multiple enemies while activating Vantage and Aether to keep him alive. I ran out of space, but I also think Guard 3 is a good choice since specials usually provide the killing power to overpower Irvan's damage reduction. C skills, like always, are open to your liking and depend on team composition if you decide to use a buff. Threaten Defense improves Brave Ike's power and Threaten Attack improves his defenses. Attack Smoke 3, which is only on Brave Lyn and is now incredibly hard to get, would be a nice option to try out, I think. With this skill, Brave Ike can initiate combat on a group of enemies and debuff all of their attack so that on the next turn he becomes that much harder to kill. For my build, I simply added Swap and Quick Riposte to Brave Ike's base kit. He can tank very well, but does lack the ability to kill enemies unless he has Aether ready. With Quick Riposte, if baiting melees, then he can now have a better chance to kill them in one turn of combat. Bjork's Blessing is very useful in Arena, but for other general situations, I think the other B skills are better. A HP plus 3 Sacred Seal is useful since whenever Irvan's damage reduction saves Ike, it always comes down to a very small difference in health. As far as melee versus melee matchups, Brave Ike is probably one of the best screen tanks thanks to his high defense and Steady Breath. Irvan makes him a good choice against brave weapons including Brave Bows and Dire Thunder. Steady Breath is a really strong skill and expect the most dedicated of players to pass it on to other tanky characters. Irvan's damage reduction is nice, but against magic very often leaves Brave Ike with a very low HP. It's good for surviving magical onslaughts, but is not a hard counter by any means. As mentioned before, the Ignis nuke build is something that can be built on multiple characters since it just requires a special cooldown reduction weapon, Steady Breath, and a Quicken Pulse seal. On Brave Ike, there are not many who can survive a hit from a fully charged Ignis, and the advantage of this build is that it only requires the user to be hit one time before they unleash their nuke attack. In Arena, it does work against any melee users who tries to hit Brave Ike, but for the most part, mages are dangerous and completely negate what this build tries to do. In PvE, the Ignis nuke is great on the first enemy, but after it feels quite lackluster, and I would prefer Aether's healing ability to keep Ike healthy. My main issue with Brave Ike is that on paper he is a perfect counter to Brave Lyn and Reinhardt, two of the most notorious arena encounters at the moment. However, most people run skills like Reposition or Drawback, and this makes it much harder for Brave Ike to attack them after he has been hit. Even against someone like Brave Lyn, he will still take a bit of damage, and Irvan's damage reduction will only help so much before one of them gets their specials ready. Ideally, Distant Counter would be amazing to fight back, but then Brave Lyn's own special skill negates Distant Counter, so it's still not the best answer. My point is that from my experience, you can't expect to use Brave Ike as a hard counter to Brave Lyn or Reinhardt. He may be able to survive their onslaught, but he has a hard time taking them out when they are with their team and getting moved around with assist skills. Brave Ike is a strong physical tank who can take quite a beating thanks to his weapon's built-in damage reduction. Steady Breath makes it easy to charge up high cooldown specials, so Brave Ike is always ready to fight with his best attacks. The question is, who doesn't like Ike?
I will defeat you!